ゴムみたいに。だから回収だけでいいって命令してきたのか。ホワイトスネークは。
Oh my god, I'm unlocking the power of my stand and it's called Castaway Anime. I'm Neon Manta. Who the fuck are you two?
Well, I am Evan, otherwise known as Crunchy Bagels, otherwise known as Ev, otherwise known as literally Evan, otherwise known as Can I Just Choose a Fucking Username Already?
And it's me, Armagon. I don't have anything to add, really.
you have no online presence. You have no plugs, no bitches. But you know who does have bitches? Jotaro Kujo. Because he fucked his wife, he married his wife, and he fucked his wife, and they gave birth to the protagonist of the new anime of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stone Ocean, now streaming on Netflix.
Man, it's so weird to think Jotaro got married, considering he's so disrespectful to women.
Yeah, he never treats a single woman aside from the kid from part 3 with kindness.
I'm not going to pretend I know any of what you guys are talking about because part 6 of JoJo is actually my first part because JoJo's is just one of those series.
Oh my god, you're a filthy part skipper.
Well, next you're
I've committed the 11th.
Next you're going to tell me you follow the Mother's Basement JoJo order.
I love that every time talk about JoJo enters like the popular cultural zeitgeist on Twitter, someone brings up that image, and then my favorite part was when Mother's Basement that one time, the last time was floating around, go tweet like, oh my god, I wish people would like shut the fuck up about it. It's like, this is your fault. You created this unnecessary stupid idea, and now you have to live with it. All you had to do to avoid this was not be a retard.
Well, you see, I have committed the 11th sin on the tablet. Wait, no. I have broken the 11th command. I don't know anything about the Bible, apparently. I have broken the 11th commandment.
That's gonna be especially hard for this part, then.
Oh, God. And so, yeah.
So, thankfully, with JoJo, there is an overarching continuity until you get to part 7, then it's a hard reset. But throughout the first 6 parts, you do obviously have to watch them in order for ahead, but you won't be missing much. It's not like...
It's really
it's
just,
sort of like how
really
everyone started with Dragon Ball Z. Most of us started with Dragon Ball Z. We skipped Dragon Ball, but go back to Dragon Ball to fill in the blanks. I started at my order personally was part 1, part 2, started watching part 3, got bored, skipped to part 4, watched that, went back to part 3, finished it, then part 5.
I don't blame you for getting bored at part 3 because the pacing.
Part 3 is the worst one.
The pacing.
I don't get why people say part 1 is the worst when
part 1 is
3
literally
exists.
like 9 episodes. Like it goes by quick.
I watched part 1 in a fucking day, and I loved it.
But
well, we can get to the part 1. We can get to all the other part 1 to 9,000 hot takes a bit later, but for now we are focusing on the part 6.
Now,
so Evan, you were telling us that you have no experience with JoJo outside of part 6, so give us your first impressions as losing your JoJo virginity to the 6th part, the newest one, released December of 2021, the first batch of episodes at least. What do you think?
Well, when I was first going into it, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really expect to like it all that much. I was like, do I really want to watch this? I don't. And I would not have watched it without the podcast, partially because it's part 6, but I'm glad I did, because part 6 is surprisingly really good. I enjoyed my time with it a lot.
Now, an interesting facet about this podcast is that all 3 of us have different perspectives to come out this show with. Evan, as you've established already, this is your introduction to JoJo in its entirety. I'm currently all caught up with every aspect of the anime, but I have not read any of the manga. I plan to one day, but Armagon has read all of the manga up to part 7, and you have not seen every episode because you are bad with scheduling your time, haha.
Quick disclaimer, I've actually only read the mangas for part 5 through 7. So I started
you didn't read part 1 through 4?
No, because I already watched it.
He's a filthy part skipper too. I'm not alone.
Alright, so What do you think being the only manga boy here, the only JoJo manga fag?
Well, I will say I am enjoying it. The anime, like, it's giving me more appreciation for Part 6, because if you might remember my previous rankings for JoJo, I've always had, like, Part 6 a bit on the lower side. And this is definitely giving me some more appreciation for Part 6. It's definitely pretty good. I do believe that, the anime, when done well, can improve the manga.
I will say that watching Part 6, I did something that I don't often do with media, well, with watchable media at least. I binged all of Part 6's 12 episodes that are currently available all in one day, and I don't do that usually. Now, granted, the day it came out, did it come out December 1st?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so the day it came out, I did happen to wake up at like fucking 7 in the morning because my body was like, all right, your sleep schedule is getting fucked for this morning in particular. And so I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm too awake to go back to sleep, but I don't want to get out of bed yet because it's only 7 in the morning. So I turned on Netflix. JoJo was available. I started watching it, and it made me dislike Part 5 a little more because Part 6 has all of Part 5's strengths and little of its weaknesses.
All right, I just want to say that I'm super jealous that you wake up at 7:30 and think that's too early.
I think it's too early.
Everyone point and laugh. Everyone point and laugh at the high schooler in the chat.
I have to wake up at 5:30.
See, I wake up.
We remember the hell. You are not alone.
See,
you are alone presently.
A lot of days I wake up at 7 too and think it's too early, but I don't have a choice because I gotta go to work.
I do not work morning shifts, which I am thankful for now until I get a full-time job, in which case I will have to start waking up at like 7 in the morning again.
The classic.
But I'm gonna enjoy that time while I got it.
The classic 9 to 5 schedule with no breaks. Capitalism.
I'm looking forward to it. Listen, man, I'm trying to buy a house, god damn it. I mean, in this economy.
But don't you know that a house is often more liability than an NFT?
You wouldn't steal a house. You wouldn't screenshot a house.
But what if I
going
would
back to
screenshot a
JoJo?
house?
That could be your stand. You can take a picture of ooh, yeah, let's get that in part 9, Araki. Let's get the fucking NFT stand. Every time you go to fucking screenshot it, you get sucked into the phone, and then you become trapped in the NFT. And then your generation destroys part of the rainforest.
Incredible.
Alright, so jumping back to the anime. What's great about the part 6 is that JoJo is absolutely at its best when it's bingeable. It is not a watch week to week kind of show. I binged every single part except for 5, and 5 is simultaneously one of my favorite and least favorite viewing experiences for not just JoJo, but anime in general. Because I had a tradition watching new episodes of Part 5. This is when I was back at college, and a new episode would always come out right around the time of my 2-hour break between classes, where it was a long enough time where I could like chill and do whatever, but I couldn't go home. I couldn't justify going home for 2 hours only to go back to campus. So I would go to my on-campus Chili's, order lunch, and pull up the new Part 5 episode on my computer and watch it while eating my fucking Chili's nachos or burger. And it was always a good time. It made the viewing experience that more enjoyable, especially when you'd finish an episode and be like, okay. It was not bad, but it just kind of passed through me like this Chili's will later to my digestive system.
I do agree that JoJo is best bingeable because parts 1 and 2 are very bingeable. And then
I binged 1 and 2 as well.
I was gonna say I still binged part 3, not in one day. Of course not. That's like 48 episodes. But like when I watched parts 1 through 4, like I binged all of that. And it was very good. And then part 5, that was the first one I watched like on a week-to-week basis. And there were a few times where I got disappointed because I thought something would happen in the episode, and it's like, oh no, it's next episode.
Well, it was also the most disappointing because apparently David Production decided to take Part 5, the Part 5 budget, and blow it on fucking cocaine and hookers. Because that's the only logical explanation I could think of as to why Part 5 had such a fucking tumultuous production. And we needed like
episodes,
3 fucking recap. How many recap episodes did we get for Part 5? Like fucking 3 at least?
It was like every time like they were changing goals or something like that, there would be a recap episode.
It felt like damn near after every arc. Like after the fucking shit with when we get introduced to King Crimson, it felt like there was a recap episode after every arc. Like, oh, we beat fucking Choco and Chocolata and the green tea guy. Time for another recap episode of the last 4 episodes. We're gonna cram 4 episodes of things you literally watched over the course of last month into this 24-minute block because we are stalling. We are fucking scrambling. We have to cut every fucking corner we can. We can't afford. We don't have the time to draw the eyes of these characters. We just have to make them black circles. And it's ugly every time.
Thankfully, Part 6 won't have any of those issues.
It has them very minimally. I did count a couple times, but they are very few and far in between.
You know, I thought the visuals for Part 6 were, like, the art is insanely good, but I will say it doesn't have as much animation as I expected and sort of wanted, but then again, I can also see, like, okay, the character designs are very detailed. Obviously, they can't, they don't have the manpower, budget, time, whatever, to make this as smooth of an animation as it can be. And then also there are those occasional moments where, something's CG, and sometimes it works, like, with the little, like, the floaty thing that deflects deflects the bullets. I thought that was a pretty tasteful use of CG.
I actually didn't notice.
Was Manhattan Transfer CG? I don't remember. The only things I remember being CG that I noticed and was like, ooh, that's really fucking ugly, and they did not need to do that, was White Snake a couple times, and
Jumpin' Jack
what the
Flash.
fuck was his name? It wasn't his stand. Is Jack Flash a suit stand? I forget.
I don't know. I think that's the one. No, that was like the gravity one, right?
Yeah, he's the gravity. Was that a suit stand?
I think that might have been a suit stand.
Okay, if it is a suit stand,
let me confirm this real quick. Let me.
Either way, it was definitely the user when he was crawling along the walls, and it looked fucking ugly.
Yeah, that is mostly what I was thinking of. His name is Long Wrangler.
Oh yeah, Wrangler. We got to make sure that we're using the good boy the official actual names, and not the haha funny for some reason cannot afford to reference the real life names lest we get sued out our asses for some reason, even though many of these bands are like defunct. So
there is
why
one like
you probably picked up on that, right, Evan? I know you're new to JoJo, but did you notice that a lot of the stand names and like some of the character names that were references to classic music was
I actually
weirdly
did
translated?
Not. Well, I picked up on the weird translations. No, I did watch the sub, and I did notice the sort of inconsistencies with the names. I did not pick up on the fact that they were like all references to bands, though.
Okay, yeah, that is the thing with JoJo. It was a thing since Part 1, but it becomes heavy Part 4 onward, because Araki fucking loves Western music, so all of his stands and some of the character names are named after Western music, like Stone Free is a reference. I forget what is it a Rolling Stones reference? Okay. Kiss is named after the band Kiss.
Oh, wait, well, no, I think Stone Free is a Jimi Hendrix song, but
oh, okay, my bad.
I think the only times where like the name changes in the localization have actually been like justified is like Vanilla Ice and Marilyn Monroe or whatever, because they're like actual people.
Yeah,
that's like the only time.
Well, it's also stupid because those are my least favorite character and stand names, because those are those are just the actual names of the people. Like
Mhm.
it's not like a general name. Like I'm okay with you
I mean,
naming your stand
Vanilla
Kiss,
Ice being used
like,
as
for
the name of a
example.
character was fine, but like for the stand, it's like
I would even argue I don't like the character name.
true.
I mean, I can get a little haha. You named this character Steely Dan because that's it's a funny name to
Mhm.
name your character. But like, as we are going to see like later in this part, we're gonna get shit like Well, we already got Marilyn Manson, but I'm trying to think of another. What's a really? I know that part 6 is when they started getting the really stupid ones.
I think there was a.
Yeah, you'd have to remind me of an example. Shit, hold on. I'm gonna look up part 6 stands real quick.
I can't see any like names. I mean, there are like some long ones, like green grass of home.
Yeah, like the long ones are also really dumb because it's just an unnecessary mouthful burning down the house.
It gets really bad in part 8, but you know.
Yeah, like part 7 also is when they get the other stupid ones. But like even let's go back to the worst one for this part. Marilyn Manson. That's just the dude's name.
Mm-hmm.
That's so I like that's not even like a clever twist on it. Like in part 8 with Nut King Cole, which is a weird way of saying Nat King Cole. Like that's clever. I like that. Why can't you do more shit like that if you're gonna directly reference the name of the person?
It's funny because like the localized name is like Marilyn Manson.
I mean, it that is also cringe, but like at that point, like I can't say that it's a better or worse name because Marilyn Manson as a stand name is already stupid. But anyway, what the fuck were we talking about aside from stand
I have
names?
no idea.
Music references. So yeah, Araki names all his stands after music, and some of them are clever, some of them are not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I imagine
Evan, how familiar are you with classic Western music?
Not at
from
all.
The past few decades.
Really, not at all. So I imagine most of these are just going to go straight over my head.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the if you end up becoming a JoJo fan, one of the JoJo virgin side effects is that you will be more inclined to check out music from the past decades, which just for that alone, JoJo might just be the most important piece, not only anime, but important piece of media to ever exist.
I have like
because
a whole playlist
anything.
of that.
Yeah, like me too. I'm kind of somewhat ashamed to admit it because I got introduced to all of these bands because of JoJo, and not because of their insane pedigree that they had even prior to JoJo. Because I'm just a fucking filthy zoomer, but I have all this cool new music now to like go back to and be like, man, music back then was way fucking better than what we have today.
Yeah, I don't know. I cannot.
In the 2010s.
I cannot stand anything on the radio. And yes, I realized my pun too late. If you call me out on it, I will slaughter you.
I don't even know what.
He cannot stand it.
Oh.
I honestly, if you did not point out that it was a pun, I would not have picked up on it. So as your introduction to JoJo, I know they don't go into stands don't become a thing until part 3. But how do you feel about stands as essentially the power system of JoJo's?
I think they're all really, really cool, and like all the abilities are really fun and interact with each other in sort of interesting ways. And I'll probably get more into this as we sort of go on, but like I think the biggest thing that I really liked about like watching this part of JoJo's is like all the fight scenes and then seeing how ridiculous the powers are and how creative Araki was able to go with them.
There is like an evolution to that. Like I know we're talking about part 6 because like in part 3 they're like very basic, and as you go through the series they start getting like more complex and have more unique abilities. And around part 6 is that when they really start. If you ask me, that's when Araki really starts to get his like shine.
Yeah, the appeal of stand battles is that no two fights are ever gonna feel the same, at least in terms of, like the rules of how they work.
Even if they have like
And,
similar
like, the win-
abilities, like
Yeah, like the what makes it fresh is that the win conditions are always changing. It's not just like in other shonen anime where you just I gotta believe in myself harder and I gotta reach this new
I gotta-
level of power to punch even harder than I did before, or I gotta unlock the new Super Saiyan transformation. It's all right. I've been put into this new scenario with this new enemy that has this unique power. How am I going to use my power in a creative way to beat him?
mm-hmm. Some
You
of the
know-
fights aren't even like fights.
Yeah, they're more like deadly puzzles. They're like deadly games of superpowered Saw.
You know, I wouldn't even say that the main appeal to the fights is that they're creative, because while that is one of the main appeals for me, I'd say that the biggest appeal while watching it was the prevalence of "you fell into my trap" moments. You played right into my hands.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that is literally every JoJo fight. It's
But
every
part two
person's trying
especially.
to 5D chess the other person.
But like what makes it so good is each character seems to be trying their hardest to one up the others. I've got you now. I've outplayed you. Memorized the board. I've completely got you. Like the way any fight will go is, you know, it'll go on for a little while. They're showing off the powers, and then one of the characters thinks they've won. Then the opponent's like, "Oh, you think you've won, but I anticipated you doing that, which is why I did this
Fucking
before the
reverse
fight
Uno
even
card."
begun." And then the main character is just like, "I anticipated you anticipating me. And so I did this to make sure that you could never even conceivably win against me. That's right, you're completely fucked." And it's just
If you
it's
like
so
that, you will
ridiculous.
fucking adore part 2. You will like if you like that aspect of JoJo, then like me, part 2 will end up being your favorite part, because that shit
Part
is
2 is
like,
my favorite part too.
because it's the best one.
It's like
Because that shit, Evan, is 24/7 in part 2.
I'm now interested.
And part 2
actually.
doesn't even have stand battles either.
Yeah, no, it's not stand battles. The stands do not
And-
exist in part 1 and 2.
I think the main reason that I like it is that, I mean, it's just super satisfying to see whenever it happens, because it's like, it's not even like it's building up to that moment. It's just like, oh, this is fucking cool as hell. I love this. This is ridiculously entertaining and satisfying to watch. But also, it means that at any given moment, the entire battle could just change on a coin flip, because characters are constantly thinking ahead and outplaying the other, and the viewer isn't really privy to it until it's actually being revealed, and then it's like, whoa, this is happening. And so it's like no part of the battle ever feels boring, because you're always tensed up and excited for that next complete reversal of the tides.
Now, there is one, like, double-edged sword to this aspect, and it's that sometimes Araki himself forgets what the abilities are supposed to do. I can't recall too many instances of that in part 6, but in other parts there's definitely instances where something would happen and you'd go, wait a minute. Like,
The part where Diver Down is completely redundant.
pretty sure, I mean, I don't think we've got there yet, but
No, we haven't gotten there yet in the anime, but Evan, I'm gonna go ahead and spoil this one aspect. It literally does not matter. I guarantee you.
Okay, yeah, that's
so
fine.
you remember the one episode where Emporio brings Jolene into that music room and she meets Weather Report and Anasui for the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the long pink-haired guy is Anasui. We haven't been introduced to his stand yet, but I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you what it is. It's called Diver Down, and its power is that it dives into your body and can attack you from the inside. It's like, basically, it's a ghost. And while that sounds cool in concept, like that would be a cool superpower for you to have, the thing with stands is that basically to not only just non-stand users, but to like pretty much stand users too, because we've seen it happen done to other stand users. Other stands can just phase through your body at like if they decide to. Now granted, that's also inconsistent because they do it in previous parts and some don't. But
Diver Down does have the thing where it does store like the kinetic energy of something, but I don't think he uses it after like the first fight.
Yeah, so basically, pretty much most every humanoid stand, like that has like the shape of like Stone Free or Kiss, like those kinds of stands, can do what Diver Down does. So it makes it redundant, and it's a little sad because
Diver
Anasui
Down,
is
honestly,
otherwise a cool
Diver
character.
Down feels like a part 3 stand that's in part 6.
Because Star Platinum just does the same thing in part 3. He doesn't go into the body, but he can phase his arms into other people.
Part 3 had like the characters miniaturizing their stands, so like.
Yeah, also that literally only happens once and never again. So yeah, Araki likes to forget and also rewrite the rules sometimes.
Part 3
he doesn't often do it to a point where
part 3 literally begins because he forgot how part 1 ended.
The author of JoJo, Hirohiko Araki, he is notorious for forgetting aspects of his work, and it sometimes comes back to bite him when he's like, oh shit, this was a plot point before, and now I've written it completely irregardless of it, and now I've created a plot hole that I could have easily avoided had I just gone back and reread my old work. And it happens to a point where it's very rarely does it actually damage the plot. And going back to the stand battles, the appeal of them is the whole the Galaxy Brain chess thing. The downside to it, not only in the Araki will sometimes forget his own rules, is that it does feel like a Monster of the Week kind of show, and it doesn't feel like it doesn't, not too many stand battles will have that lasting multi-episode feel like, oh, this is like an intense battle, like this is your, like, I know people like to narc on Goku versus Frieza for lasting fucking tens of episodes, but the reason why so many Dragon Ball Z fights stick out into people's minds because they spanned multiple episodes, and you were like with them, even though admittedly not a lot of progress is made in a fight during a given episode, you at least feel like this is a long, important climactic battle. Whereas most JoJo episodes, the stand battles will go no further than 2 episodes, and maybe they'll just get dealt with in one, which is good it's good in a sense of keeping things fresh. That way you won't get bored of a battle. You won't be, even if you get bored of a battle, it won't be going on for much longer. The downside is, well, and like the reason that he has to do this also is because since everyone has such unique power and the battles are more like puzzles of trying to outwit each other, you can't really have rematches because you're not likely to figure out a new way to use your power. You're not gonna be, Jolene's not gonna be like, Gwess has come at me with Goo Goo dolls to make me shrink again. I wonder how I'm gonna get out of this time. Oh wait, I'll just grab her with Stone Free and beat the shit out of her again. Like that's over and done with. We're not gonna see him fight again, and if we do, it would be boring. Yeah, basically that.
Also, most stand battles ends with the enemy just dying. That's another thing.
It depends on the part.
Depends on the part. Part 4 doesn't really have it. Part 5 has it a lot.
Literally everyone fucking dies.
Part 5 has the biggest body count of the entire series.
Part 3 you would think would have a big body count, but apparently the enemies just retire, quote unquote. Whatever the fuck that means. My least favorite stand battle in all of JoJo's is the Part 5 one between I'm sorry that you'll have no context for this, Evan, but I just want to use this to illustrate a point. There's this guy named Narancia, and his stand is called Aerosmith, and it's just a fighter plane. It's just a plane that he can summon and to fly around and detect people with the radar and shoot people with guns. And he fights. It also has missiles.
No, I was gonna say it even has a little pilot inside of it, which I think is cute.
It's cute, but I don't think it even ever comes up in the anime. So he's fighting 2 guys at once. One guy who has a stand that takes control of your tongue and forces you to say things that you don't mean to say.
It'll make you say the opposite of what you're saying.
Yeah. And then another stand, which is like a shark that can hide in bodies of water, be it like something as big as a lake or as small as like a glass of water, and jump out and attack you if you get close enough to it. And it's a cool fight up until the very end, where Naranja's figured out how to take care of the talking tongue stand, and then as the talking tongue stand user is dying, he throws some blood onto Naranja, the plane user, and now with his dying breath, he lets the shark stand user go into his blood to attack the plane user, and he is in his neck. The shark is like biting into his neck, and blood is gushing out of his throat. Now, just given those clues and given your knowledge of JoJo thus far, what do you think? How do you think the plane user defeats the shark user?
Not really sure.
Well, here's the answer. He just shoots.
Literally, the shark is in his neck
let me
and is
say
like
this.
wiggling around.
Let me say this. He literally just says, "I'm built different."
He's like, literally, the shark is in his neck. Blood is gushing out. Like, he should be fucking dead. And he's just like, you fucking think this phases me? And then he just shoots him dead and kills him. And it was so unsatisfying. It's probably the worst stand battle in the show.
It's funny, but it's also like the thing with like JoJo characters don't die unless the plot says they do.
Yeah, you probably notice this, Evan, that there is a copious amount of blood in the average human within the world of JoJo.
Hermes gets her liver taken out, but nope, she's fine.
She gets her what taken out?
The liver in the
the stomach.
That was the liver. I think it was
the liver? Okay, my bad.
Yeah, but yeah, she gets to take it out. Nope, she's fine.
She'll also, characters tend to bounce back from life-threatening or at least very permanent injuries real fast. Like even going back to Hermes, when she was messing around with her sticker ability and she peeled the sticker off her finger, which caused her two fingers to smash back together, causing them to bleed. She just is able to bounce back from that real fast, along with all the fucking electrocution and bruises and cuts from when she was battling Highway to Hell. But it's like, she's just, the next day, it's all like, bingo bongo, it's magic. She's healed once again. Which they're able to get away with in parts 4 and 5 because they introduce healing stands.
Mm-hmm. Part 3 actually had characters get injured and then like not show up for a while. Granted, in one of the characters'
it only happened twice.
It happened twice. One of the characters' cases because he actually killed off the character, but you realized he was too popular, so he brought him back. He peeled it off. Oh, he was like very close to death, but not really.
Sometimes you just gotta bow down to the editors, which is why we don't have a gay Jolene.
It's hard for me at least to be too mad about how the characters bounce back so quickly, just because like these battles are already completely off the walls insane, and so it's like, you can kind of feel during the battles that like basically a bunch of like sort of scientific concepts or whatever will be referenced, but as I'm watching it, it's kind of like, I don't really think it works that way. But you know what? It's just a fun fight. I can suspend my disbelief for that. I know it's just supposed to be completely off the walls wacky. It's fine.
Yeah, Araki has a history of writing stand battles in a way where he'll introduce a concept that he found while reading a Wikipedia article or like reading through a National Geographic magazine that he read the first paragraph of. I was like, all right, I'm gonna put that in, and then he got overly excited and then put it in. It's not unlike Hideo Kojima style writing.
I have not seen anything.
It's cute, and like you said, it's like you said, it is cute and endearing. He doesn't go too far into the concepts to be like, it sounds like pretentious, where like you need a fucking science doctorate to follow along with every battle. But it does just smack of a little, I read about this for like 10 minutes and then I put it in, regardless of whether or not it's actually scientifically accurate.
You know, the only one that really annoys me is when Weather Report hardens air to stop a bullet. I think that's what happened. He deflects a bullet with air, and I'm like, okay, how does that work?
I buy that more than I buy Frog Rain.
Well, no, I actually bought into the Frog Rain completely, because that is like a real phenomenon. Like, there have been...
It is a real phenomenon.
Yeah.
Granted, they specifically state that these frogs are like from fucking like South America or some shit, unless I'm misremembering that. They're definitely not native to Florida, where this show takes place. And even if they were native to Florida, there are not that many in the area enough to, like, he literally just fucking conjures them out of thin air, which therefore makes Weather Report even stronger than Gold Experience.
You know, that did not really break my suspension of disbelief. And it's not that it's not unbelievable, it's that him raining poison dart frogs to get Jolene out of that situation is so amazingly hilarious and just awesome that I was like, I don't care what the logic is. I want to buy into this, so I will buy into this.
Most of the time, stands do have abilities that make like sense with what they are. I think there's like a few where they have like two completely different abilities. Like I know, I know Isaac talked to me about Whitesnake like a few days ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was gonna bring up that because you reminded me about that exact conversation. That many of the stands have abilities and names that completely like unrelated to each other. Like going back to part 5 with Aerosmith, that's a plane. That's a clever name for what is essentially a plane stand. Kiss. Like it's okay. I mean, at least it's like Kiss. The design of Kiss is like Kiss centric, and all the stickers have little kiss marks on them. And when she applies them and tears them off, there's a smooching sound effect. So while duplicating and smashing things together might not be exactly related to kissing or like the act of a kiss, at least there's a general theming of it. Stone Free. You would think would have something to do with maybe like stones or rock. It's Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
It just turns Jolene into Spider-Man.
She does name it because she will break free of the ocean of stones.
Which is like one of the few times in JoJo where a character actively names their stand, and it's because where the fuck did that one character decide to name her stand Marilyn Manson? Because it is also confirmed several times throughout JoJo that these Western artists exist in this version of Earth where JoJo takes place. So it's like, are they just fans?
In part 3, it was the tarot and the Egyptian gods, and then Araki realized he used all of them. So now it's time for music.
Evan, what was your favorite stand from part 6 so far?
Hold on. Let me look back on some of them, because I have the characters list right over here. Well, my favorite stand moment was definitely the frog rain, just because, I mean, it was something I knew beforehand, so it was like, oh, that's cool, I know where this comes from. But also, it's just so completely out of nowhere, and like, what the hell is even happening? Really solid moment, but I'm not sure if I'd say it's my favorite stand overall. My favorite stand is probably hold on, Mirashon's, who it's like she sort of gambles and her stand will take the money. Marilyn Manson. The actual stand idea is very fun, and I really liked that battle in general. It took up like an entire episode, and I was not bored once throughout it. So that's probably my favorite, just because it's so damn fun.
Yeah, I do think that was my favorite episode of the show thus far. I I really like the excuse me, the dynamic between Jolene, Aramis, and Foo Fighters. Not only because it's the first time we've gotten what is essentially right now, at least, an all-female JoJo ensemble cast, because Emporio, Anasui, and Weather Report are... Well, Anasui is not a character yet. Jotaro is taken out of commission, and Weather and Emporio have little to no impact on the plot as of right now. Weather only became important in like the last 2 episodes, but he will become more important as we go on.
What do you guys feel like? How do you feel about the characters in this part of JoJo's?
They are pretty good.
I love Jolene as a protagonist, mostly because it's been a while since we've had a JoJo who felt like they had a stake in the plot and didn't just have like the call to adventure just happen to them. Like let me go down the list real quick. I know that we have to reference the past 5 parts that you don't have much context for, Evan.
Yeah, because like in part 1, Jonathan he gets dragged into this like unwilling. Oh, I guess the ones that get.
Well, no, like Jonathan. Well, the thing with Jonathan is that he doesn't really have an arc. He is just like part 1's literally just the hero's journey, given in its most like basic but entertaining form. It's like probably like the best ideal of the hero's journey you could possibly make, in that kind of short, snacky 9-episode size and length.
Yep.
Joseph, it become kind of like the same thing where like it just sort of happens to him through circumstance, but at least the story around part 2 is not only good, it's also wacky and zany and in non-stop entertainment.
Then we got to part 3, and Jotaro is like directly has a stake in this.
Yeah, because his mom is cursed by Dio, who is the vampire that you meet in part 6 in a flashback. His awakening has put a curse on her that's slowly killing her, and they have to kill Dio in order to break that curse to save his mom's life. Part 4, Josuke.
So the thing with Josuke is
Jotaro...
that, like, hang on. So the thing with Josuke is that, like, at first he kind of gets like that stake at first, and then he kind of just goes away until like the end.
Yeah, because the thing with Josuke is that it's brought to his doorstep because Jotaro is coming to look for him, and he doesn't get like a real stake in the narrative until you could argue like that with the shit with the arrow after they kill his grandfather, but I would say that he doesn't get like a personal stake in the narrative.
It is
until
worth noting
the whole Kira plot.
It's worth noting that part 4 is probably I guess part 5 did, but part 4 is probably the like least ambitious of the parts.
It has the least scope, but it also has the second best. It's also the second best part.
It is in general like a bit more kind of slice of life, not really, but
it is the closest thing to a slice of life within JoJo.
Yes.
And that's part of why I love it so much. My favorite episode of JoJo is the fucking Italian restaurant one with Pearl Jam. Cause like there's not even a fucking enemy. It's a weird thing that they go to a restaurant and he just so happens to have a stand. The alien. Yeah, that one's fun too, but I just love the concept of the restaurant one even more, especially with how it ends.
Now we get to part 5. JoJo does not have an actual stake.
Yeah, no, he just had a goal beforehand. Before we even meet him, he already had a goal in mind, and then the show's just like, oh, look, a way to achieve this goal has presented itself in front of me.
Truth be told, the real JoJo of that part is Bruno.
Yeah, Bruno's the real Chad. And then now we get to part 6, and now Jolene, she was just a normal teenage girl who just so happened to be involved in this hit and run, which, like, even in a vacuum, you didn't have to include the thing with Poochie orchestrating the hit and run to get Jolene in jail so that way she can make Jotaro a target, or she's used as bait to make Jotaro a target. That could just have been pomp and circumstance, and then she ended up in this jail, and then JoJo could have just sent her the stand arrow shard to help her survive in prison.
Mhm.
That could have been like its own plot thing, but it's because she's now like not only is she imprisoned for a crime she didn't commit and now got fucked over by Poochie, and now she's like, all right, I know I'm innocent, I got fucked over, so now I'm gonna make it my mission to not only get revenge on these assholes for putting me in jail for this whole thing that I was not even a part of, but now I also have to save my dad. Because she could have walked away, she could have washed her hands of this whole thing. She didn't even like her dad that much.
She could have gone on that submarine and just...
She fucking bounce, like, see ya, dad, peace. Let fucking Poochie reset the universe, who cares? Spoilers. So, with, we'll get to that. Poochie gets into some fucking... Poochie does a little trolling, a very minute amount of trolling, as the show will go on. So it's so refreshing to see Jolene feel like she is the main character of her narrative, which I know is weird to say because like, oh, all the JoJos are the main characters of their narratives, but it feels like she has something to lose, and not just outside of just her life. Like she's putting her fucking soul out there. Like she's fighting. Not only she like. Her cause is at first was just, I'm going to set myself free because I'm innocent. I do not deserve to be in jail. I got fucked over, so now I'm gonna get back at the assholes who wronged me. And then it organically grew into, okay, now they've made it even more personal, not only by dragging me into their mess, into their fight, but now they fucked up with my dad. I'm gonna fucking kill these guys.
And it does have the added dangers of the prison. Which I'm pretty sure, okay, you could say this for like in real life, but I'm pretty sure this prison is like violating like every law on the book. Like the explosive,
someone has not watched the Shawshank Redemption.
The explosive wristbands, I don't think that's actually allowed in real life. Like,
yeah, no, that is wildly unethical.
That would pretty sure that's a war crime.
Oh no, that it is. It absolutely is.
But it's also Florida, so I mean, I guess it makes sense.
You know, it doesn't matter if the prison is breaking all the laws, because it's in Florida. That's the explanation for why this prison can break the rules.
It's also an explanation as to why all of the guards and some of the prisoners look like the most hideous mutants you've ever seen in your fucking life.
See, it's weird because like they look so weird, but at least they're not like Popo from Part 5, who absolutely should not even be alive. In
the absolute unit. If you ever go back and watch Part 5, you're gonna get introduced to a character.
I'm just gonna show.
Yeah, go ahead and post an image of Popo. I'll put Popo up on screen for the video part. You need to see this fucking lad.
I will put it in the chat, and Isaac can put it in post or whatever.
Yeah, I'll put it in post. Go ahead, drop it in the chat.
Okay, let me get the screenshot. Okay. All right.
Yeah, this is the second antagonist that the main character from Part 5 has to deal with.
Evan,
he's one of the gang leaders.
This here is Popo.
Aw, what a cutie patootie.
he's fucking anime Kingpin, but even larger. He's like bigger than fucking Spider-Verse Kingpin.
This guy is amazing. I love him already.
Even within the context of JoJo, like how
this is impossible.
I will say I definitely liked
at least
Loco Barocco. I think that's how you say it. His character design, just because it's so out there. And, like, what am I even looking at? This is disgusting, but I love it.
I need to look up who the fuck Loco Barocco is in
the guy
Part
with
6
the...
now. Is it the
guy with the...
is it the guy with the crocodile?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, it is the warden. Alright, yeah. He was the mutant that I'm referring to. What shape would you say his skull is? It is not skull-shaped.
What shape is it? I'd say yes. That is my response.
Why does it come to a point? Why does it come to a point at the top of his head, and why is it rounded?
You notice how his eyes are like on a different elevation or something?
Guess he wore goggles too long.
His eyes have like fucking. You know what it is? You know what it looks like? It looks like his eyes, like, they're so bulbous. Like, his eyeballs are just that huge, but, like, his eyelids are so, like, fucking swollen that they can only show that tiny little slant.
It's so weird.
Like imagine, like, him, like, he had to fucking rip his eyelids open just, like, have his, like, full eye be within view.
I don't even want to think
fucking
about the
nightmare
anatomy.
Abomination. Yeah, that is the Araki shorthand for this character is a bad person. If they look ugly, they are probably evil and deserve to die. Just like what the fuck was his name from Part 4? The kid.
Yeah, I was a really big fan of Jolene as a protagonist because, like, at first she seems like sort of the rough exterior, kind heart sort of character, and that is kind of what she is. You know, she has a penchant for aggression and also complete kick-assery, and has a very hard moral compass. You know, she's sort of hard to sway in that way, but she is also a character in prison where, you know, everyone has to sort of put on a rougher exterior. So she ends up not really, because, like, even though she is totally that way, she's also not that way in the context of being in a prison. She's one of the more, you know, calm, collected people in this place. And so that was kind of cool to see the sort of recontextualization of her character. And all the side characters are just super memorable, especially with their powers. The powers are almost always, you know, they almost always add on to the character in a very interesting way. Like, the best example of this is probably Gwess, where she shrinks people and then puts them inside the emptied corpse of animals. So, like, at first she has a parrot, and then she has a rat. She puts Jolene inside a rat's body and has her go out to try and find a way to escape the prison.
Jolene! 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 Jolene!
And that kind of sold her character to me as, like, oh, you know, not only does she have this power for shrinking people, but also she does this weird shit with it. And she, like, loves it. She treats the people in the animal suits as, like, these cute little adorable animals. She, like, obsesses and dotes over them, but is also kind of like, but you better do what I say or else I'll fucking kill you. And, like, the flip between that. And then something consistent with the characterization in JoJo's, well, I'm not sure if it's consistent across the series. I think it is, just from the few clips I've seen. But in Part 6, well, I should start with this, which is that recently I've been thinking a bit about, like, you know, to characterize a character in a story, you need to show their emotional roadmap. You know, you sort of show how they react in different situations, and you can get a full picture for who they are, and they won't feel one note. And JoJo's characters sort of show their emotional roadmap by virtue of just existing, because they're always overreacting to, like something will happen and they'll react very strongly, then, you know, a slight change will happen and they will react very strongly in the exact opposite direction. And it's like, okay, so this is one very specific thing that will set them off this way. This is one very specific thing that will set them off that way. And you sort of very quickly form an image for who they are. Like, an example of this would be, I'm trying to find a particular character. Let's see if I can find him. It's the one guy who, like, wants to kill himself. And, you know, at first, you know, he's like this complete simp. You know, everyone calls him outright evil because he's just that much of, like, a self-deprecating, self-pitying, you know, pile of garbage. And then, you know, we get to this point where I'm trying to remember exactly how it is. It's like, you know, the show is constantly setting you up to where, like, you expect him to react one way, but then he will react the exact opposite. Like, when Aramis is like, here, I'll show you my panties if you don't kill yourself. Yeah, it's like the show sort of like sets him up to do one thing, and then he'll just do the complete opposite, where it's like, Aramis is like, oh, hey, I'll show you my panties if you don't kill yourself. And, at first, because the show's been sort of setting him up as like this simp type character, you expect him to be like, oh, I'll totally not kill myself now. And then it's just like, you're just doing this to pity me, and like goes even harder onto like trying to kill himself. And it's like the scene keeps on going like that, where it's like you think he's gonna do one thing and then he pulls out the other. And it's like that sort of characterization is prevalent throughout all the characters, and it's always really interesting because it's never the exact reaction you expect, and it's always, it's always a very strong reaction too. And that sort of builds up this very distinct impression of them. Characters in JoJo's are constantly, contorting their face and having these ridiculous expressions and super big reactions to very minor things, and it's makes them very, very specific.
I wouldn't say they're necessarily reacting to minor things, because when Aramis sees 2 glass bottles of piss slammed together, and she like screams out at the top of her lungs, I believe her. I'd probably do the same thing if I saw 2 fucking bottles of piss.
Maybe not small things, but still very big reactions.
Yeah, and don't worry, suicide. Don't worry, suicidal viewers at home. If you are watching JoJo, know that Araki does in fact hate you. I kind of felt like, I'm exaggerating, but I kind of felt like Araki was demonizing suicidally depressed people with Thunder McQueen, because they went out of their way to describe how evil he is, and granted, he is evil, but like they play up his suicidal funks so heavily, and then go so hard on this motherfucker is evil to the core, and it's like
he has a stand that is like, it's really the worst stand you could have.
Well,
because it only works.
It only works if you die.
Well,
but at the same time,
I guess
how many stands do you have?
Oh, that's right. That is another stand name you didn't like. Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah, because it's just a fucking person name, and yeah, you have to die for it to work. But hey, if you die, the other person dies. So, yeah.
I actually
can't say it's ineffective.
I actually kind of liked the whole evil to the core thing, because the way I read it was that the show was criticizing him for being a self-pitying piece of garbage, to where he's constantly like, it's not even just, it's like so self-pitying to the point where it's like annoying. And so it's like, I thought the show was sort of criticizing that.
でもそんなことありっこねえよな。俺って情けねえよな。クズだよな。死にたくなった。何やってんだてめえ
You should kill yourself.
Frank, you have only seen 8 episodes of the 12, but of the arc that you remember from the manga, to fill in the blanks, what is your favorite part of the 12 episodes that are currently out?
Well, I gotta say, I do want to talk about real quick that the visitor arc, I feel like it was longer in the manga, and of course that's just because, chapters and stuff. But I was kind of surprised to see it be like 3 episodes instead of what I was going from the manga, from what I was remembering.
Yeah, that one was my least favorite of the 12 episodes. Partly because it did kind of drag on longer than it needed to.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't think it would be 3 episodes, but
also partly because White Snake uses a power that it will never use again.
Mm-hmm.
And also, fuck the rule that Araki had where a stand can only have like one. A stand only has like one power, and any other powers that it could have to be related to it. Please explain to me how creating a goo that causes you to fall asleep and enter a dream world, and while it slowly eats away at you, and also taking people's stands and memories out of their bodies in the shape of discs is any way related.
You know, I kind
Exactly,
of
you
just
can't.
assumed that the discs were like something pre-established in like
Nope.
another part.
Nope. Nope. That's just Whitesnake. That's Whitesnake's main power. It turns your stand and your memories into discs, which it can extract and put into other people. And it's a cool power. It just also didn't need a goo power that I'm going to spoil now. We will never see again.
Awesome. Although on that note
I-
of the sort of a dream goo room, there's one moment in that that's so hilarious and so amazing. It like had me laughing and tense. And it's where like I think it's the beginning of episode 5. Jotaro wakes up. He's woken up from the dream, and he's in the room, and there's sort of he's sort of like melting away in the goop, and then he realizes he's in another dream. That moment was amazing.
It's the Inception power. Araki thought Whitesnake was just too not good enough, so he's like, you know what? I'm gonna give him this dream power that he'll never use again, and that phrase will pop up more than once within your JoJo viewing experience.
You know, one thing,
Especially when you get to part 3 and you get to Dio again and be like, man, Dio would be way stronger and scarier if he were using the things he did in part 1 against Jotaro.
Yeah, I have a feeling the parts aren't super like consistent or logical or whatever. Like
They're not.
they're
They're not.
Thinking back on the one moment where like he wakes up from
I
the dream,
think
like,
I think the most consistent part is part 1, and that's just because of how short it is.
It's consistent because you can't go further back than the beginning.
one thing I was
Like part 2 has Joseph having access to the script, and then yeah.
That's just endearing. Anyway, go on, Evan.
one thing about the sort of like waking up from a dream only to be in another dream. I was thinking like, why is he in another dream? Why did Jolene seemingly only have one dream, but Jotaro had 2? And then I was like, you know what? Who cares? This moment is cool, and I want to believe it happened, so my suspension of disbelief is not broken. And I felt like I was sort of doing that a bit more often with this part of JoJo than most other shows, where it's like, this is cool, so I'll believe it, even if it's not necessarily entirely logical.
I do wonder, maybe it won't happen in part 6, maybe it will. But I do wonder if you'll just see a moment in JoJo where it's like, all right, yeah, that's just going too far at this point.
We will reach several moments in part 6 where that will happen, I guarantee you.
Oh no. There are a few sort of plot contrivances that did get to me.
Anyways, I wanted to answer the question that Isaac actually asked me about what my favorite arc was from filling in the blanks and stuff. But like, I think it really is, because keep in mind, the last time I read the manga was like before part 5 came out. So, but I do like, from what's animated, the Foo Fighters, they merged those 2 arcs together. That was a really cool sequence.
They merged them together. It felt like it was all
Well,
one arc
because
they only fight Foo Fighters.
No, because like in the manga, at least how the arc is structured, it starts off with like the search, and then the actual fight with Foo Fighters is like the other arc. But yeah, because Monster of the Week and stuff. So
it all felt like the same plot to me.
Yeah,
but
same here.
In terms that's in terms of how like the manga structures it, and the anime is just 2 episodes, but it's really cool. I like seeing the Jolene using her strings as like a bridge. I like seeing that animated.
It also allowed us to see in glorious animation one of the hottest JoJo girls. Yes, I would fuck Foo Fighters. Thank you for asking.
I cannot say I agree.
Listen, the hair, it's the she might have to change her hair, but she's got the right color. You put green hair on any girl, they'll automatically be the most attractive thing in the world to me.
Isaac is going, hear me out right now.
Hear me out. Peridot is rock, but she's an alien rock. She can choose to have no womb. Listen, all I'm saying is that plankton can't take human sperm. So, I don't gotta worry about the pregnancy scare. Probably. Or no, maybe we'll have a fucking demon spawn baby the same shape as the fucking warden, so who knows. That's probably where he fucking came from. I believe it.
There are definitely...
Oh,
go on.
All three of the main JoJo girls in this part are ridiculously hot. I don't think it's a coincidence that they have Jolene stripped naked in the first fucking episode. And then have her not only do that, but have her take several seductive poses.
I think
of her own free will.
I think it was like that part was like, well, it was the manga, but like they did expand upon it a bit more in the manga. They definitely trimmed it down for the anime for obvious reasons. But
listen, all I'm saying is that Irma's sticker could do crazy things. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Somehow,
for the first time ever, man can fill both holes at once.
Somehow, Neon Manta ends up being horny every single podcast for one of the girls in the show. This is a running theme I've noticed.
It will never end. Listen, it's having my two dicks slam and bleed back together when we're done is a small price to pay for Irma's sex. Like I'll roll with the punches. I'll take the lumps.
My God. I did not want that image in my mind.
It is not my fault that they made them so fucking hot. Anyway, where the fuck were we before I horribly derailed the conversation?
I have no idea, but on the topic of sex, I can't believe I went this long without mentioning that the opening scene of this show is amazing, and it sold me on it completely within about like 2 minutes. Because, you get the shot of all the characters in the prison. You've got, Jolene and Aramis, and then Jolene is like completely distraught, and Aramis is like, why are you distraught? Like, one of the male guards saw me. Saw you what? He saw me masturbating in my cell. And then Aramis just bursts out laughing.
Her fucking little oh my god as she puts her hand up to her mouth like instantly sold me on her character and her performance. All the performances the actresses give are very good. Shout out especially to Ai Faruz, whose last major role was Hibiki from Danbiru. God bless your soul. She has come a long way from and she's a relatively young actress in the industry. She doesn't have that many roles. I'm pretty sure this and Hibiki were her only major roles.
I don't actually know what that show is.
Danberu? How heavy are the dumbbells you lift?
Oh, that show.
The weightlifting one?
Yeah, I now know what you're talking about.
Yeah, she was the main Gyaru girl.
I do like how so far, like as far as some of the casting goes, like this has been like wish fulfillment for both the original Japanese and like the English dub.
Oh yeah, you'll have to refresh my memory on it or like fill me in. Did Kira Buckland ever express interest in wanting to voice Jolene in the past?
Yes, but I did not know about it until it came up when Stone Ocean came out. Like when they were announcing the dub cast or something, someone posted, well, actually, I don't know.
I remember the tweet that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
About how they were praising like how Jolene is like best of both worlds for both English and Japanese. But then again, if you watch the dub of Part 6, you're just a troglodyte human. And don't get mad at me for saying that. That's just the truth.
Now,
Is
so,
the dub
thing
like
with-
notoriously bad?
Actually, no.
No, it's not bad.
The thing is, like, when it comes to like the stand cries, you can tell that they're trying, because like
It's just not the same.
the auras don't sound as good.
Well, no, the main thing is not even the stand cries. I can live with that. The main thing is that you, unlike with the Japanese performances,
you're also
where
gonna- you're
they'll
also-
say the actual names, but you'll read on the subtitles the translated copyright free names. We'll call them the royalty free names, and which is annoying, but at least you can make the difference in your head that okay, this is what they're actually saying. In the dub, you have no choice but to be subjected to the royalty-free names, and that ain't gonna fly.
You will hear Jolene call it Stone Ocean rather than Stone Free.
And yeah, that's a deal breaker. Sorry.
Like this isn't.
I'm sorry,
this
Kira.
This is in the dubs of Part 1 and 2 as well, but it's nowhere near as noticeable because Araki wasn't going ham with it. Because
Yeah,
in
if you
part,
start the ideal JoJo watching experience, in my opinion, is that you watch the first two parts dubbed because they're really good dubbed. I would argue even better than their Japanese counterparts, but you couldn't go wrong with either. And then Part 3 onward, it's Japanese only.
I mean, even in Part 3, because Part 3, like the stands are not named after like music, so you could get away with Part 3 dub. It's just onwards.
You would until you get to the final battle between Jotaro and Dio, and then it's like, if you watch it dubbed, it's alright, but if you're not watching the original Japanese, you are doing yourself a heavy disservice.
I recently watched a clip of the 7-page Muda dubbed, and oh boy.
Is it not as good?
It's not as good. Apart from the re, I think the re part is like better. Like he blew his lungs out there. Like,
Well, so did the original.
right, but like aside from that, the 7-page Muda in English is. I can't tell if it's because like he obviously can't say it as fast, or if it was the sound mixing. Like I can't tell either way, but it doesn't sound as hard.
Well, regardless, just don't watch Part 6 dubbed. just don't.
All right, this is like completely.
I'm sorry, Kira,
This is
but it's just got to be the way it is.
this is completely unrelated to anything we're talking about, but all right.
Cool, that's been the entire podcast.
I'm on AniList right now, and the recommendations from like JoJo's to like other anime. It starts off with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Diamond is Unbreakable, then Stardust Crusaders, the original JoJo's, Stardust Crusaders, Battle of Egypt, and then K-On! K-On! Is the first non-JoJo's recommendation.
It's the logical through line, because like everyone in K-On! Is a stand user.
What's Yui's stand?
That's the thing.
stands?
You don't pick up on that on your first viewing, but then you go back and then you realize, oh wait, Fua Time was just the name of her stand.
What?
And the battles with the strawberries and the cake, those were actually stand battles the whole time.
Yui's stand is being
I
an
don't know. I don't know
idiot.
shit about K-On! I haven't watched it. The only like JoJo like anime I can think of are shows that try to do what JoJo do but fail fucking spectacularly.
And then
There are only two
Fist of the North
that
Star
come to
because
mind.
Fist of the North Star is because it actually predates JoJo, and Part 1 is basically
Well,
like
Yeah.
copying Fist of the North Star when you think about it.
The only two anime that I can think of off the top of my head, they're like try to do what JoJo does and fail, are Big Order and what the fuck was it called? Fairy Gone. Fairy Gone is fucking horrendous. Just don't even try to watch it. Big Order is only notable because I think it's from the same guy who made Mirai Nikki.
Oh, Mirai Nikki was horrible. I'm just gonna go ahead and not watch Big Order.
Yeah, but the thing about JoJo's is that the stands are incredibly fucking unique, and like, because everyone stands are basically just superpowers, but they're sentient humanoid like representations of your superpower. Like you don't like Jotaro doesn't fucking need to have a ghost by him to be
Like-
Star Platinum. He could just his superpower could just be he punches hard and fast and can stop time on his own. But it's just cooler to have like what is essentially your fighting spirit represented in physical form to stand by, quite literally stand by you and help fight at your side.
It also helps that like most stands have incredibly banger designs.
Oh yeah, the stand designs are without a doubt my favorite aspect of JoJo.
So some are like whatever, but like most of them are pretty great.
You know,
Yeah, fucking I really like Stone Free's design. I don't like the sunglasses are really stupid, but in a like a fashionable, cool kind of stupid. Like they're completely unnecessary. But the fact that Stone Free just has sunglasses just because I just think it's cool.
I'd say that the show, going back to what we were talking about a bit earlier, I'd say the show that this reminded me the most of was, oddly enough, No Game, No Life, just because of the way the battles were sort of trying to one up the other through logic games and all that stuff. So all the fight scenes sort of reminded me of No Game, No Life, except in JoJo's it's a lot more fast-paced and more I've got you now, no, I've got you now. Whereas No Game, No Life felt a bit more meticulous in that regard.
We weren't able to do the winter 2021 seasonal podcast, like not winter, the fall podcast like we originally planned to, but Platinum End seemed like it was going to fall into that kind of JoJo-esque camp, whereas everyone has more or less the same powers. It's not a diverse power set as the JoJo stands, but it seems like they were trying to do something similar. At least they were planning on it. I haven't watched Platinum End past the first 2 episodes, but that's what my impression of it was.
I have not watched Platinum End at all, except I know it's from the guy who made Death Note.
Yeah. I was also gonna say, Death Note is also the only other anime I can think of where it's not a superpower thing, it's just 2 guys trying to out 5D chess each other, but it does have similar situations. Like, the fucking tennis match in Death Note, you could rewrite that to be like a stand battle in JoJo without having to like change much. You just have to give Light and L superpowers, and it would be the same. But anyway, I do have one criticism of Part 6 that has not been a problem of the past few parts, and granted, given the nature of this villain, that maybe this will change. I feel like the sound design, and I also I'm sorry to like change my own train of thought as I'm saying this, but like even now as I'm thinking it out loud and going back through the episodes in my head, I think this part might have the weakest sound design of the anime thus far.
I was kind of hoping for like Stone Free's like string to have like a unique sound or something. Cause like
no, it's just like a flipping sound. It's just like the Spider-Man flipping sound.
Yeah, cause like when you get with like Crazy Diamond and like Gold Experience, like they have their own like unique sounds when they do their like gimmicks, but like you don't really hear something unique from Stone Free.
And it's really sad. Like I know Evan, you don't have a frame of reference of this, but the JoJo anime is the one thing it's most commonly praised for is its sound design and its music. And in the music department, it's as good as ever. I fucking adore Jolene's theme. And no doubt, I know you haven't watched the anime, but you no doubt are familiar with the Giorno theme meme.
I've heard it.
Piano?
I've heard
The
it,
piano?
but wait, now I remember it. Yeah, that song is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That song's
The
great.
fucking the Uno reverse card if it had a theme song.
The only sort
And,
of noticeable bit of sound design I noticed, I mean, first of all, there's Jolene's theme, like you said, which is amazing. But the 12th OP for the final episode, the entire OP just has all these random sound effects. Yeah.
That's tradition. That's tradition.
Oh, that's tradition.
Traditional.
Okay, but
yes,
I thought it was
the last
obnoxious.
opening of.
What?
Oh, you just made a lot of enemies, my friend.
That's like the coolest thing.
I will say this one is not one of my favorite sound effect openings, but
But that means that
we need to take this time to talk about the opening now. I
That
just realized
means-
we went like an hour and a half into this podcast. We haven't even mentioned the opening yet.
That means the next batch is gonna have like a different OP. Oh wait, are they gonna give us like 3 different OPs?
They might. I hope.
That's gonna be interesting. Anyways, the OP, I think it has like
Fucking bangs.
the best visually, it's like the best thing since Bloody Stream.
I would even go as far to say it's best thing since well, visually I was
Mhm.
it has the color scheme of Bloody Stream and even shit like Crazy Noisy Bizarre Town. But I would say I know it's because the last time that we saw 3D openings was End of the World, but it is one of the higher end, upper echelon tier openings that we've gotten for JoJo.
Mhm.
It is better than both of the ones from Part 5 because Part 5 had the weakest ones, and it's even better than even the good ones from Part 4.
Obviously, I don't have really a frame of reference in terms of like the JoJo series on the whole. I think the OP is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's amazing or anything like that. Visually, I guess it's fairly interesting, though I think there's a bit too much of the characters just staying still as the camera sort of flips around them, where it's like I wish they would move a bit more. But the colors are obviously very nice in the OP, and the song itself, it's decently catchy.
I will say, the opening, hilariously enough, it's not the story of JoJo that you will be the least appreciative of as you watch the anime starting from Part 6. It is the opening that you will have the least amount of appreciation for without starting from Part 1, because what's special about this opening in particular is that Parts 1 through 3 of JoJo's anime, the openings were all in this 3D style from the studio Kamikaze Doga, who this was like the thing they were most known for back in the day, and then they went on to make their own projects like Pop Team Epic and Gal and Dino. And we went during Part 4 and Part 5, we went without Kamikaze Doga's 3D openings, which Part 4's were good. It wasn't quite the same, but they were good in their own right. And then Part 5's kind of suck ass. But then when the JoJo fandom found out that Kamikaze Doga was coming back for Part 6, and when I don't know about you, Frank, you probably felt the same way. But when I watched it, it was like falling in love with JoJo all over again.
It reminded me of the cool opening from like Part 1, and it's like the thing that you also won't get appreciation for by starting in Part 6 is that the opening has you won't, if you blink,
A shit ton of references.
if you blink you'll miss it, but there's a ton of references to like the earlier parts.
Yeah, like even the first time I watched it was because they dropped the opening before the show even came out, I think. Like I thought it was cool already because the directing, the colors, the camera work, the song, all of it was fucking awesome. They're not like with the callbacks to even past parts openings, like how it'll mirror or continue off a thread from the Part 3 openings that featured Jotaro, because Jolene is Jotaro's daughter, and it's a passing of the torch, and I fucking love that shit. And what's cool about the Part 6 opening, which is something a lot of the JoJo openings do, is that if you watch it before the show and you have no idea of what happens within this set of episodes, you will think that it's just a bunch of cool imagery, and it is, but then you watch the episodes and you're like, oh wait, these are things that are happening in this arc. Like the shit with the piano room. Like I had no idea what the fucking tractor and the barn was supposed to represent, but then you watch the show and you find out, oh wait, that tractor is where Poochie has hidden all the stand discs. And now this room that just was probably like a cool set piece now has even more context that I have picked up on. So by the time the sound effect opening happened in episode 12, and now you've figured out what every single scene represents, like all of the falling basketballs and baseballs, like, oh, I remember now, they were playing catch. That's what that was supposed to represent. It's very cool, and it makes me feel like a smart boy, and it felt like I was being rewarded for watching the show, and not a lot of shows do that.
That was definitely an experience I had with the opening too, and that is probably my favorite part about it. Where it's just like, oh, that's what was happening there. You know, I thought it was just the OP being quirky.
Going back to the sound design though, I am very sad that aside from Kiss, and even then with Kiss it rarely ever pops up, the sound design for the stands is kinda weak. I cannot remember what Stonefree's sound effect is aside from generic thwipping thread noises that I would just already a picture Stonefree to have. Whitesnake does not even have a sound effect yet, and the fact that Whitesnake doesn't have a recognizable sound is a fucking sin for a JoJo anime.
Like, all the main villain stands, they all have like unique, like, you know, this is the main villain.
Yeah, when the World, Killer Queen, and King Crimson come out and you hear those sound effects, you know, like, fucking shit's going down. And we've seen Whitesnake all of these times, and I was, like, waiting for, okay, when are they gonna reveal the sound that Whitesnake makes? It either doesn't have it yet, or it has happened, and the sound they went with is so weak and unmemorable that I struggle to even recognize or register that it exists.
I will say I didn't really pay too much attention to the sound design, so not a whole lot stood out to me. It's definitely not bad sound design, though.
It's not bad, it's just weird that it's not as good as it usually is.
I think, of course, they got time to, like, you know, we'll see what the other parts are.
They do have time to flesh it out, but even then, like, part 4 and part 5, bro, Moody Blues is one of my favorite stands, and partly because the anime did him justice with one of my favorite sound design choices for the whole anime, by having him have, like, dial-up modem phones, and it's so fucking cool. And I'm just want to just gush about Moody Blues now, but I don't want to get off track again. It's just weird that Weather Report hasn't gotten anything like that. The only, like I said it before, the only one we gotten something like that was Hermes with Kiss, and I guess I remember the sounds from Marilyn Manson, if only because it's just the generic ring of a cash register, which I would expect Marilyn Manson to make a sound like that. It's not like a unique original sound, like the famous people who are not even familiar with JoJo know what the world time stop sound effect is. What haven't we touched on yet?
Let's see. I do have a few, I guess, plot contrivances, kinda, that sort of, I guess, bothered me a little bit as I was watching it. It's not that the show doesn't have an explanation for them. It's just that I was like, eh. The first one I sort of noticed is in episode 2. The show sort of points out the security camera, and they're like, okay, you have to, as a rat, walk in this very specific place under the rail. You know, so they're like pointing out the security camera and exactly where it can see. But then Jolene ends up growing behind the bars enough so that a guard sees her, sounds the alarm, goes away for a bit to get everyone to get their rifles and shit. And then when he comes back, Jolene is nowhere to be found, and he just assumes that, like, oh, I must have just been daydreaming. And it's like, could you not have at least checked the security cameras at all?
Well,
did
Jolene
nobody
did, like,
think of
Jolene,
that?
Well, there was like a little quick shot of like the thread leaving the camera, so.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I do not
she
remember that.
She used the thread to point the camera away.
Oh, she did.
So that way they couldn't go back and check the footage.
Okay. Well, then never mind. I'm just an idiot.
That or she covered it up. I don't know. That or she covered it up. She did one of the two things.
I don't think she covered it up. I think she just yanked it away. Any other plot holes that you can think of?
I'm trying to see. Because I know there were a few places where I was confused, but I also kept on going like, well, I know that I'm new to JoJo, so it's like, I was very hesitant to call out things that I thought didn't really make sense.
If you are confused as to why JoJo has the overpowered ability to stop time, that is explained.
I was
Well-
not confused about that.
Okay.
The actual explanation is pretty dumb, but
Okay,
It is a dumb explanation, but it is explained.
there is one other. This isn't even like a plot contrivance. This is just something kind of annoying. But what's his name? The guy who like kills gravity and whatnot. So he's like
Rang
Langler,
Langler. Jumpin' Jack Flash.
he thinks he's won, all right, and he's like gloating about his victory. And you get this full body CG shot of him like moving around, and then it goes close up to like his face, and he's like, I finally won. And then he like pulls up his hand, and there are threads attached. However, in the body shot preceding it, canonically the threads were already attached. They were attached when like right before he shot. And so, but there are no threads attached, like visible at all during the full body shot. And that was just kind of like a little annoying. I get why it's there. It's so that they can have the sort of like sudden twist where it's like, oh, she actually, put the threads on him. But it's like, just don't have the full body shot.
Yeah, JoJo will kind of do that sometimes, and I get why it would annoy you, but yeah, that is just kind of small potatoes in the grand scheme of
It's
things.
definitely a nitpick, but it's something that was kind of like,
As far as bad things about the part, Emporio, and I know Frank is like dying to chomp at the bit and shit all over this kid, so I'll let you go ahead without getting past the 12 episodes that are currently
the thing
out.
is, at this point, I can't really like say much just because he hasn't really done much. Like,
there is one thing about him that is tied. Once again, goes back to the grander thing of JoJo and how Araki will like just randomly pick and choose who gets to have a stand from like getting pierced by the arrow, or who gets to be fucking like born with a stand. Cause why is Emporio the only character so far to be just born with a stand?
in the part.
Yeah, in the part. That's what I meant to say.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, but please explain that to me though.
I don't know much about the stands, so I'm just gonna tap out here.
Yeah, I mean, the general idea of this part is like a lot of stands are like given, and you assume that the same thing happened in part 5, and really actually, yeah, ever since they introduced the stand arrows, like most people who have stands got them through one way or another instead of being born with it.
Yeah, but Josuke is born with it. Giorno's born with it. Fucking.
To be fair,
Who else is-
to be fair though, like that was because of the Dio curse. Because like remember,
well,
like Joseph
But
was
what
not
about Josuke though?
Joseph was not born with a stand. He didn't get his until he was like 60.
Yeah, but fucking.
Josuke was born before Dio woke up.
Okay,
Giorno was definitely
But wait.
born after though.
but wait. So then, why would Josuke have a stand then if he was born even before Dio woke up?
I mean, so was
Because bloodline shit.
yes.
Okay,
That's
so then
literally the
why?
reason. That's literally that's like the whole thing to kick it off part 3.
But wait. All right, hold on. So then Giorno, when was Giorno born?
After
was
Dio.
Dio alive?
Yes.
When, after Dio died?
I don't. Dio was. I don't. Does it?
Was Giorno an infant?
Pretty much because he's like 2 years younger than Josuke.
Alright, but then how come Jolene has to get pierced with the arrow to get her stand then?
Well, because Dio was dead by that point. Because remember, it was Dio being like awakened that triggered the stance abilities of the Joestars. But
Which also doesn't really make a lot of sense, but
yeah, but the whole series has kind of been like that whole Joestar Brando.
It could have just been the arrows from the beginning, but we still don't even know if the stands are like fucking alien technology or not. That was an errant plot thread that Araki introduced and then never developed. And then don't even get me started on fucking part 7 where there are no arrows and people just develop stands.
There's like the equivalent to the arrows, but like it's more of like location stuff. Also, the thing with part 7 stands is that a lot of them, part 7 stands are weird because part 7 was not supposed to be JoJo in the first place. So that's like part 7 has like the weirdest stands because it's not until like a good way in that we start seeing like the humanoid stands again. I remember how you described like how JoJo's superpower could have just been he punched really hard, and that's kind of how part 7 stands feel like early on. They don't feel like stands, like they just feel like, oh, that's the superpower that they have.
Yeah. Going back, reeling it back in once again to part 6. Going back to Emporio, he just kind of feels like it's time to move the plot along character. His whole thing about like living within the prison and just his whole thing. I don't get what his deal is. Like what is his stake in the whole Poochie thing?
If I recall correctly, it was that he basically, his mom was killed by, hold on, you're saying Poochie. He's like the main villain, right?
Yeah, the father.
Emporio was killed by, or Emporio's mom was killed by him.
Really?
I think he mentioned something like...
Yeah, okay, I see Poochie on the character sheet,
Did I just
Emporio's
fucking-
mom was killed by
fucking
Poochie.
Blink over that shit?
Apparently. And so Emporio, he wants Jolene to get, obviously, her dad cured, partially. I mean, it's not really 100% clear. Well, actually, no. He sympathizes and like helps out with Jolene because like he's been in that sort of position before where it's like his mom was killed by him, and so he's like, oh, you're being targeted and your dad is, so I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna give you some warnings. And then obviously, you know, at this point he sort of formed a bit of a connection with her and also just wants to see Poochie get his comeuppance and see his destruction reversed. So that is why he wants to help Jolene, to my knowledge.
I just don't get why if he's had this stand for so long that lets him live within the prison, I don't get why he just doesn't fucking leave.
That's true.
He was not waiting this whole time for someone like Jolene to show up. He didn't even know about stands until fucking Jolene showed up and then made him like understand what they were. So like, why didn't, like, he could use the power of his stand to, like, leave the prison undetected. He's not a prisoner at the prison. Why did he hang around for so long?
Even if he gets exposed, the guards would be like, hey, wait a minute. You're not supposed to be here.
You're a fucking kid. Get the fuck out, kid. We'll just kick you out on the street.
The only assumption...
I get that he probably has nowhere to go, but, like, I don't get why he would choose to stay in the prison.
As far as I know, it's not really addressed by the plot, but my assumption is just that because Emporio was born in the prison, he's been there his entire life. That's all he really knows, so he wants to stay in the prison.
I mean, I would leave, personally.
I'm not too bothered by it.
I don't get what his... He doesn't feel like he has an arc.
I mean, yeah, Emporio...
Which is fine.
Emporio is far
which is
from
fine
an
for,
interesting
like,
character.
If he is supposed to be a character... It's like we're gonna continue the trend of referencing past parts. It's like he reminds me of Raimi from part 4, but like she doesn't have an arc either, but that's for an actual reason. And it feels like he is supposed to be sort of like the Raimi of this part, but he's gonna go on to be one of the ensemble cast members, whereas Raimi was a minor character that just happened to trigger the plot.
She was a minor character that did have, well, not a major role, but there was definitely...
She had plot relevance.
Yes.
And it feels like he's supposed to have plot relevance, but all he does is just tell Jolene the next thing, whereas he feels more like a vessel than a character. He feels more like a plot device.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
And that's my problem with him.
He's
He's also not interesting in the slightest.
I don't mind him too much just because he doesn't hog that much screen time. It's like, yeah,
I personally, I would be indifferent, but stuff happens that I will not spoil. Isaac knows, though.
I do not know.
He becomes...
Yeah, that's what I'm not
becomes
saying.
a little more important. That's all we'll say.
Okay.
He becomes a little more important as the show goes
Well,
on.
I am fine with him until he becomes super important. Because right now, his stake in the... I mean, well, okay. Not his stake in the story. He definitely has a stake in the story. But his presence in the story is not big enough for me to really mind him being there.
Alright, I think we've covered everything about Part 6 Stone Ocean thus far. What do y'all think of it generally?
It is very good. Well, I mean, yeah, it's JoJo, so it's going to be good, of course. I do want to point out that the score I gave the manga was an 8 out of 10. So far... I've generally seemed to score the anime 1 point higher, so let's see where this goes. Let's see how the anime elevates the manga. But yeah, pretty good.
I'd say that it is a very overall solid story. I'd say its biggest strengths are definitely, it has a lot of, I wouldn't say super interesting, but they're all very solidly written characters. Very entertaining to watch. And also just, I really like the feel of watching it, to where it's always like, the battles are always people constantly one-upping each other in this game of 10,000D chess. The characters are all wacky and react very strongly and all have these like twisted expressions. The character designs all look very solid, even if the animation isn't as much as I would like there to be. I also like how sort of, unique the powers are, how weird a lot of the scenarios are. I didn't really touch on this a whole lot, but like a lot of JoJo's is just watching something completely out of nowhere happen, and it's like your jaw is to the floor, like what is even going on? So it's a story with a lot of high points, not a lot of flaws. It's just that, it doesn't have quite enough, I think, to elevate it to being like really, really great, but it's still overall incredibly solid. I'd give it like a very good 7 out of 10.
I feel a similar boat. I'm not in the habit of giving shows that I haven't finished yet scores, but if I had to score this batch of episodes, I would also give it a 7 as it currently is. It's got a lot of strengths that I like and that are unique to this part, like the narrative stakes of the protagonist and the fact that they're all totally fucking gay for each other. You can't fucking pretend that they're not. Well, I say it's unique, but that starting with part 5, that is every part of JoJo.
Mm-hmm.
I will say there's one last note that I didn't bring up before, but I wanted to mention real quick. We didn't talk about the villain that much. Poochie, he doesn't do much thus far. I've been told that he gets better as we go on. He hasn't won me over just yet. But I am excited to see his relationship with Dio be fleshed out in the flashbacks and see how he develops the personality of a villain and like what drives him, because they've introduced these bones and whatnot of Dio, who is the big bad guy from part 3, and that's tying into this big plot about heaven, whatever that's supposed to mean, haha, feigning ignorance for Evan's sake. And so, from what I know of the manga, shit's about to go crazy. And when we leave I'm excited for when we leave the prison in the anime, and I'm excited to see all that stuff, especially when we get to fucking Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm chomping at the bit to find out how they're gonna animate that shit. We'll conclude the podcast with a brief explanation of what Bohemian Rhapsody is to Evan. So
basically,
that stands power.
Is everything?
Yeah, go ahead.
Every fictional thing, everything that's in a work of art, anything that comes to life. And the way it works is that you might think that's cool, but the thing is, if you like connect to it, you will get drawn into like that story. And it's good if the story, like if it's just like has like a normal or happy ending. But if you get dragged into like Saw or something, good luck. Because you have to follow the story. You can't like change it just because you gotta follow it to the end.
The most exciting thing though is that Mickey Mouse is in the manga, right?
Not directly shown, but mentioned. I do believe Spider-Man is actually seen though.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the copyright nightmare
that
David Production will have to deal
I'm looking
with.
at the list, like you can see the tail of Mickey Mouse, but obviously you can't.
Yeah, because they're able to name drop characters like Bugs Bunny, but to have like their likenesses show up in this anime. Granted, it is technically parody, so they could get away with it.
I think they could actually just get away with putting Bugs Bunny like straight up in broad daylight, if only because Warner Brothers has the rights to JoJo.
Yeah, only the Warner properties though. It'll be the fucking Space Jam: A New Legacy of the JoJo. I'm like frothing to think about how incredible or how awful this is going to get adapted. Because if they can't even get the fucking stand names, how are they going to handle actual fictional characters?
Apparently, like
owned by other properties.
Apparently, Kenshiro is one of the characters that will he's unseen, but that's mentioned to be showing up, which is really funny.
He'll show up. He'll be mentioned, no problem.
Because it's really funny when you consider that JoJo originally started as like kind of a Fist of the North Star parody.
Yeah, and they're both in Shonen Jump, so it's only natural. But that like the shit with like Spider-Man, like I gotta fucking see that shit, dude.
So I assume we're going to be covering this show basically up until its conclusion, 12 episodes per part, probably.
Yes. We will be back for, I believe they said that they're going to drop the episodes once a month, right?
I think so.
That was their original plan.
That's what I've heard.
I don't know if they're going to, because the Japanese broadcast for the show is going to start in January, and they have to go week by week. So I don't know if they're going to wait until the Japanese broadcast is done and then drop the new episodes, or if they are going to stick with that once a month thing. This is a nice middle ground between dropping the entire show all at once and then having it fade out of the public consciousness in a week, and then also not having to slog through week by week because this show is best enjoyed binged. The narratives, the Monster of the Week formula does not lend itself to being binged. To not being dragged out on a week by week basis. This is definitely a show you can watch all of in one day, like I did.
Yeah, I really like the batch episode sort of structure.
Well, that's all, folks.
With that, that's going to be the end of the podcast. I'm Neon Manta. Who the fuck are you people again?
I'm Armagon.
I am wandering the South American rainforest and converted to Buddhism, and my name...
Fucking frogs.
Yeah, looking for the frogs. And my name is... Hold on, what South American name? I am Googling this.
Oh, you're about to get really racist.
Okay, hold on. South American
Araki
boy names.
Has gotten racist in JoJo a couple times. It's okay.
My name is Albion, and I am wandering the South American rainforest in search of my...
What's your stand name?
My stand name is...
What's your stand name and what's its power?
Okay, so hold on. I need to reference a bandit. Okay, so my stand name is Tally Hall, and my power is to nuke the entire universe.
Frank, what's your stand name?
I wasn't playing along with this.
Well, now you have to.
Well,
You know what? I changed my stand power. My stand power is to make French toast within 30 seconds.
oh, that's pretty useful.
Now, how would you use that to defeat the stand users, your enemy stand users? Are you gonna materialize toasters while they're taking a bath?
No, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna proposition them for a nice breakfast of French toast instead of fighting, and they're all going to accept because French toast is amazing.
Anyways, I think it's
Quick, Frank, what's your stand name?
My stand name is it's time for good night, and it puts everyone asleep permanently.
I can't imagine
Well,
why
damn.
he chose this.
I was gonna. Well, my stand name is Bye Bye Bye, and its power is to end the podcast. Actually, I think I feel a little funny. I feel a little tingly. I think I feel it manifesting right now.
Hey,